Good morning, folks. I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters and the Pathfinder School. What I thought we'd do today is kind of a back to the basics video on saw selection. What you may be looking for depending on what you're doing before you buy a saw. So you understand what purchase to make that's going to work out best for your application. Now, we're going to talk mainly about folding saws or small handheld saws today. And I've got several saws in front of me here. A lot of them are Silky brand, but not all of them. Silky, I believe, is one of the most versatile brands out there. We'll discuss that as we go. However, they're not necessarily the cheapest brand out there. And a Baco Laplander saw, which is probably one of the cheaper folding saws on the market that is considered a bushcrafting style saw, is a very, very good saw depending on your application. So let's get started talking about that. We'll get some close-ups of these tools as we talk, and we'll get started. Okay, so generally speaking, most of these saws that you buy, folding saws and things like that, and even this larger one-handed single-hand saw, this Zubat by Silky, are all green woodworking saws. They will cut dry wood just fine, so don't let that fool you. However, what you're looking at with any saw is how aggressive the teeth are and how many teeth per inch that saw has, and that will generally dictate how aggressive that saw is. So if you look at something like this Zubat, you can see it has very large, aggressive teeth on it. And there's not too many of them per inch on the saw blade, which means it's a more aggressive saw, a rougher cutting saw, which means it's meant more for green wood. Will it cut dry wood? No problem at all. It will definitely do that, as well as something like the Silky Big Boy. And as far as stacking firewood goes, these two saws right here are hard to beat. So if you're looking for a camp saw and you're wanting to stack firewood in camp, these two saws definitely are a good bet. Now, the opposite side of that coin would be a fine tooth pattern or more teeth per inch. So if you look at something like the Baco Laplander, it has many more teeth per inch than something like the Big Boy has, all right? So it's a finer cutting saw. Now, because of that, it excels in some areas and doesn't excel in others. It excels in areas of crafting because that non-aggressive blade or less aggressive blade is better for making stop cuts and things like that, where you don't want to overrun a line that you've marked on wood that you're trying to do crafting work with, like making a spoon or something of that nature. So a finer wood blade with more teeth per inch is going to be better for that type work. However, as far as cutting firewood goes and things like that, the more amount of teeth per inch means it's a finer cutting saw and it will not cut as fast, okay? Now, while we're on the subject of crafting saws, Silky does make a saw that's made specifically for woodworking, a back saw that's made specifically for woodworking. You can see it has a ton of teeth per inch, probably 24, 25 teeth per inch, something in that neighborhood. And that is a woodworking saw specifically, something you'd use in your shop, not necessarily in the woods, okay? You can also buy this type saw off Amazon, and this is a fairly decent saw for craft work. Doesn't take up a lot of room in your pack or your pocket if you're just doing crafting work. And it's a double-sided blade that has a more aggressive blade on one side, less aggressive blade on the other. It's a very flexible blade, so you can get down to cut things that are pinned and things like that and cut them flush and level. But again, it's just a saw for craft work more than for cutting firewood. This is not really a firewood cutting saw. So if you're doing craft work, this is another option for you that you could choose from to put in your pack. And these are 20 bucks or less on Amazon, okay? Now, something like this Gomboy, again, you've got a very aggressive blade on here. It's not as long as the Big Boy is or the Zubat, but it's a comfortable carry saw that you can basically put into a belt pouch that's made for the Gomboy. And you can carry that on your belt in the woods, and it will give you that benefit of stacking firewood without carrying such a large saw. But again, it's a fairly aggressive curved blade, so it's more of a pruning style blade, okay? They make these in smaller saws as well. You can get something like these Pocket Boys and this smaller Pocket Boy right here. Both of them have fairly aggressive blades on them, but the advantage to the Silky saw is that the blades are very easily interchangeable. You can use one blade to change out another blade very easily. And you can see that this Silky Pocket Boy here is one that I carry a lot in my crafting kit, or my bush crafting kit, because I have a very fine blade, almost as fine as that woodworking blade is on there now. And I carry 2 spare blades that are much more aggressive. And again, one blade will unscrew the screw on the saw so that you can change the blades out very, very easily if you need to. So that combination works well for crafting and for firewood. However, you have to remember that a short blade like this is not going to cut big timbers, okay? You need something more like this or this if you're really looking at stacking a lot of firewood. If you're looking for something that gives you the best of both worlds, where you can do some craft work and you can do some fine work, this works fine. You can also buy those finer tooth blades for something like the Gomboy if you chose to, so you'd have the best of both worlds there, okay? That's just a simple explanation of saws and saw selection for folding saws, okay? The more teeth per inch it has, the finer it's going to cut. The more teeth per inch it has, the slower it's going to cut. So if you want something that's going to stack firewood, you want an aggressive blade. If you want something you're going to do craft work with, you want a non-aggressive, more teeth per inch blade like this one. And you can get interchangeable blades for these. You can also buy blades for the Baco Laplander. They don't have near the selection that Silky Saw has in blades and tooth per inch configuration, things like that. But you can buy replacement blades for the Baco as well. All right? That gives you just a quick look at several saws, and these are the saws that I commonly use the majority of the time. Okay guys, so that was just a quick review video on tooth per inch, how aggressive or non-aggressive saws are, different applications for saws, and how to select the right saw blade and tooth per inch pattern for the application that you want to use it for in the woods. I hope that helps you. We appreciate your views. We appreciate your support. I thank you for everything you do for Self-Reliance Outfitters. And I'll be back with another video as soon as I can, guys. Thanks.